program. This is our Srimad Bhagavatam program where we read prayers of pure devotees of Lord Shri Krishna. So the current theme which is going on is prayers of King Chitraketu. These are very beautiful prayers from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 16, from verse 34 to 48. Today we have a very wonderful devotee, Prashanth Prabhu, who will be presenting the verses and his realizations. So Prashanth Prabhu, few weeks ago, he already covered some of the verses. Today he will cover the second half of these verses. Hare Krishna, Prashanth Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna devotees. I want to thank Jishwaran Mataji, Satsar Prabhu, Veena Mataji for giving me this opportunity to present. I am not qualified, but for my purification, I would like to do this service. As Mataji said, we will be reading from prayers of King Chitraketu, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 6, 16, 34 till verse 48. We covered part of these verses in the first presentation, so I will be covering the remaining verses, or most of the remaining verses, in this following presentation. So we will start with invocation prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Mutane Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namne Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesh Shunyavani Paschantanishtani Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srimad Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll get started. So last time we covered the story itself of King Chitraketu and how the Lord appeared, and then these were his prayers to the Lord after he spent 7 days fully absorbed in chanting the mantra that Narada Muni and Angira Rishi gave to him. So and this is after the death of his newborn son that was poisoned, and they bring the boy back to life, and he explains how he's not from he's not from he has switched parents, and that he doesn't remember this particular short life that he had. And he talks about how he's a wandering soul and whatnot. So we will pick up from verse 40. So so far King Chitraketu has he's talked about his position and the Lord's position, and now he's talking about what we should do with our lives. So what he's explaining, one very key point to all of us, right, which is Bhagavad Dharma. So I will read the verse and then translation, and then we will talk about some points. So verse 40 from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 16. Jitam ajita tada bhavata yadaha bhagavatam dharmam anavadyam nischinchana ye munya atma ramayam upasate apavaragaya. Translation: O unconquerable one, when you spoke about Bhagavat Dharma, which is the uncontaminated religious system for achieving the shelter of your lotus feet, that was your victory. Persons who have no material desires, like the Kumaras, who are self-satisfied sages, worship you to be liberated from material contamination. In other words, they accept the process of Bhagavata Dharma to achieve shelter at your lotus feet. So the main thing here is that King Chitraketu says Bhagavata Dharma is anavadyam, which means it's false, faultless, just like the Supreme Lord. So bhakti process that you should follow, that we should follow, is without any fault. It is the only process by which we can achieve shelter of the Supreme Lord. And for different ages, different yugas, there's different prescribed yuga dharmas, and the yuga dharma this age of Kali is bhakti yoga, is to chant the holy name. And Prabhupada, the purport, he explains that the bhakti process essentially is the 5 things broken down. One is you become free from material designations. So we respect these material designations because we are in the material world, but we are not bound by them. So we are free from them. What that means is we practically, right, we have father, mother, brothers, sisters, wives, children, whatever it might be, but we see them all as part and parcel of Krishna. That we are here to serve them in whatever capacity that we are able to and should, but we should not be attached to the relationship itself. And free from material designations also means designations like, oh, I'm from this country, I'm from this region, I'm from this caste, like whatever it might be. Those are also all material designations. Same thing, it could also be, being attached to job or occupation, whatever it might be. And I'm a farmer, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, whatever it might be. So that's the free from material designations, is free from any material designations. The only designation we have, which King Chitraketu will explain in one of the next verses, is to be servant of Krishna. So the next one is being cleansed of all material consciousness. Cleansed of material consciousness and cleansed of material contamination. So this means this is looking more inward, right? So we are not attached to name, fame. We're not attached to our ego. We are not attached to lust, greed, anger, all of these things that can bring us back down to lower modes. And we are not doing sinful activities. So all of these things are, material contamination inside of us. And then engage in service of the Lord. So this is performing devotional service, Shavanam, Kirtanam, Padasevanam, all the way till, Atmanivedanam. So following this different stages of bhakti itself. And then we should be doing it in which way, which is unmotivated and uninterrupted, right? So devotional service, when unmotivated, means we don't have any desire other than to serve the Lord. We don't even have desire for liberation, or we don't have desire for, from the lowest stages, we don't have desire for some object, right? Oh, I want this job or this amount of money or this car, whatever. We materially we might desire, we don't have that. And then spiritually also, we don't have any desire for liberation. Instead, our only desire is to serve the Lord. And uninterrupted is we're consistently doing it without any delay or any pause. And then the result of that is Prabhupada says is we develop love for Lord and we serve the Lord. Develop love for Lord and develop love for serving the Lord. So, we talk about how it in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says there's the verse that's Anya Abhilashita Sunyam Jnana Karmadi Anavartam Anukulena Krishnanu Silanam Bhaktir Uttama. So, in translation is one should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord favorably, which is anukul, and then without desires for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. So, we are not doing it for some sort of knowledge. We're not doing it for some sort of karma, fruitive activity, or result of fruitive activity. Instead, we're only doing it because we want to develop a relationship with Krishna. And then the other thing that the other point that Prabhupada makes in the verse, and I think from the translations we can pick out, is Prabhupada describes the 3 types of people who do devotional service. So, it says nishkinchana, which means that those who have no desire for material opulences, which we talked about. Munyaha, which is the great philosophers, and Atmaramas, which are self-realized souls who are eternal servants of the Lord. So, this, just by reading this one verse, we can understand who performs bhakti, what the bhakti process is, and what we need, what the end goal is for us. So I'll go to the next verse. 41. So Vishama Matir Nayatra Nranam Pam Aham Iti Mama Taveti Chayat Anyatra Vishamadiya Rachito Yaha Sahi Avishudhaha Shai Ishnur Adharma Bahulaha. Being full of translation, being full of contradictions, all forms of religion but Bhagavata Dharma work under conceptions of fruitive results and distinctions of you and I and yours and mine. The followers of Srimad Bhagavatam have no such consciousness. They are all Krishna conscious, thinking that they are Krishna's and Krishna is theirs. There are other low-class religious systems which are contemplated for the killing of enemies or gain of mystic power, but such religious systems, being full of passion and envy, are impure and temporary. Because they are full of envy, they are full of irreligion. So, in the last verse, King Chitraketu is acknowledging that the greatest victory that is that Krishna spoke of Bhagavata Dharma and Bhakti Yoga. And this verse he's talking about what not to do, right? Which is the opposite is follow other processes which will not give us love for Godhead. So topmost process is bhakti, right? And in this process of bhakti, we have to have full faith in the Supreme Lord and Spiritual Master. And we have to follow whatever the Lord and Spiritual Master say without any hesitation. It doesn't mean that we don't have clarification or doubt, but it does mean that we have full faith in what the Lord says. And Prabhupada explains it very nicely in the purport that true religion aims to develop love for God, not pit one religion against the other. And instead, everyone should believe in God and surrender unto Him. So Prabhupada makes a very clear point that there really shouldn't be any distinction between religions or between like Muslim, Christian, Hindu, even like within Hindu, there's many different things that people follow. And all of these things we should disregard, and simply we should surrender unto the Lord and believe in God and do what the Bhagavad Dharma says. So and Krishna, Prabhupada references to this verse many times in these in King Chitraketu's prayers, which is the Sarvadharman Parityajya Parityajya Mamekam Sharam Raja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Isyami Ma Suchaha, which is abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So Prabhupada repeats this verse in the purport of this verse and several other verses, which just speaks to how important it is in terms of what the message that we have to take away. It's just surrender unto Krishna and perform devotional service unto him, which is what the Bhagavad Dharma is of this age. So Prabhupada also explains two other things, which is tangential to this, which is we shouldn't have any sense of ownership, right? In Krishna consciousness, Krishna is the supreme, and we talk about this in like Ishavasam Sarvam, that Krishna is the supreme controller and owner of everything, and he has set everything so perfectly that each person has what they need, and no more, no less, to pursue devotional service. So there's no yours, mine, anything like that. It's all Krishna's and Krishna's, and it should all be used in service of Krishna. Similarly, Prabhupada makes a second point that we should treat everyone, regardless of their, regardless of who they are, as part and parcel of Krishna. We should have, Prabhupada says, there's no, because everybody has super soul within them, there should be no one that's an enemy of that we should treat as an enemy. As a result, we should treat everyone as a friend of Krishna. And our only goal in interaction with anybody else should be to bring that person to Krishna, or engage in devotional service with that person, if they're already in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada also says we should not scrutinize others, other religions, or demigods. Instead, we should treat everyone equally and as a friend. And the next verse also talks about this a little bit more. In this verse, I'll go a little faster because I have 4 more verses. In this verse, the translation is, how can a religious system that produces envy of oneself and of others be beneficial for oneself and for them? What is auspicious about following such a system? What is actually to be gained? By causing pain to one's own self due to self-envy, and by causing pain to others, one arouses your anger and practices irreligion. So King Chitraketu is continuing the same line of thought that you shouldn't do something that's not developing love for God. And if you do follow something else, then you're only creating adharma, which is irreligion, and it's going to be sinful ultimately. And Prabhupada explains, right, that all other forms of yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, all of these, they operate on some sort of principle that's transactional, and instead there's always some concept of ownership and proprietorship, but with bhakti yoga, it's full surrender unto the Lord, and we don't have any desire. We are fully nishkama, and it's, if we follow these other lower forms of religion, then what will happen is we will surely have some something that we get attached to, something that we get fixated on, and as a result, that attachment will bring lust, greed, anger, or some other envy, pride, and that will lead us down. That will lead us to commit something sinful or do something sinful. So, what we should focus on then is just on bhakti yoga. And like Prabhupada says in the purport, he says, all other religions eventually lead to irreligion and adharma, as they're focused on something temporary that is mainly for self-pleasure. So ultimately, right, if we are all engaging in self-pleasure and not in proper dharma, then surely the universe will not benefit, right? Mother Earth will not benefit, demigods will not benefit. So surely it will, the quality of life, everything will go down, which we see happening today all around us. So there's no benefit to be gained from a religion that is not purifying our anarthas. Instead, it's going to cause further trouble for all of us. And it's because it's misguided, it will cause further trouble for not only us, but everybody around us. And ultimately, right, Krishna comes because he wants to paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya kalushpatam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yugam. He comes time again to establish religion, annihilate the miscreants, and uphold the devotees. So protect the devotees. So we'll be stuck in that cycle of birth and death if we continue to do adharmic activities. So ultimately, we should escape from this cycle, and the religious system, like Bhakti Yoga, should awaken Krishna within our heart. So let me go to the next verse. So in this verse, King Chitraketu explains further, right, what is our ultimate duty. So in the translation is, my dear God, Lord, one's occupational duty is instructed in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita according to your point of view, which never deviates from the highest goal of life. Those who follow their occupational duties under your supervision, being equal to all living entities, moving and non-moving, and not considering high and low, are called Aryans. Such Aryans worship you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, few points in this verse. Chitraketu is explaining that our ultimate duty is to follow what is said in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And never deviate from that. And what Prabhupada explains, right, in the purport is, connects it to how it's very rare for us to have this opportunity to perform, to first have human life, and then have some association with and some mercy that we got, to then be able to read Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, and then understand that this is our occupational duty, and then as a result become somewhat religiously inclined, and then develop some desire for liberation, and then become a devotee of the Lord, and then become and then ultimately, hopefully, develop love for God. So this whole process is very, very rare. So if we understand that this is the ultimate duty, and King Chitraketu makes it clear that Bhakti Yoga is our ultimate duty, then we should take up this opportunity to the opportunity is rare, and devotees and devotee association is even rarer. So we have to take advantage of this opportunity. Maharaj Parikshit also asks for these same three boons. He says, when all the sages are assembled and he welcomes them, he says, again, offering my obeisances unto all you Brahmanas, I pray that if I should again take my birth in the material world, I will have complete attachment to the unlimited Lord Krishna, association with his devotees, and friendly relationships with all beings. So, even if somebody wants to come back, like Maharaj Parikshit, he says, even if I have to come back, I hope that I have attachment to Lord Krishna, association of devotees, and friendly relations. So it shows how a devotee will approach performing, this ultimate duty. It's that, we don't have any, so we talked about in the previous verses, you don't have any unmotivated, it's unmotivated, it's uninterrupted, and then we are always looking to serve the Lord regardless of what our circumstances. We'll go to the next verse. And translation, my Lord, it is not impossible for one to be immediately freed from all material contamination by seeing you, not to speak of seeing you personally, merely by hearing the holy name of your Lordship only once, even Chandalas, men of the lowest class, are freed from all material contamination. Under the circumstances, who will not be freed from material contamination simply by seeing you? So far King Chitraketu has talked about what his ultimate duty is, and then this is the result of the ultimate duty, which is that if we do perform devotional service, and we get the opportunity to see the Lord or hear the Lord, and both of these things will free us from all material contamination. We become fully purified. And Prabhupada helps us understand, that in our current state, contaminated state, it's very difficult for us to hear the Lord, see the Lord, and even if the Lord came before us, we would not recognize the Lord. So, as such, the Lord appears to us as deities and as the holy name, and that's the way in which we can connect to the Lord. And serve the Lord. So Prabhupada also says that, the result of serving the deity of the Lord and serving the Lord in Vaikuntha is the same. So if we have the opportunity to serve the deity, it's the same as serving the Lord in Vaikuntha. And ultimately, we can think that there are other ways to be free of the contamination, but it's all temporary. The only permanent way to be free of contamination is through engaging in Sankirtan. So, Prabhupada gives the famous verse from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Kevalam, Kalau Nasti Eva Nasti, Eva Nasti Eva Gati, Anyata. So, in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting of the holy name of the Lord. There's no other way, no other way, no other way. And this is, I think, the last verse. I have one more. Okay. I'll just cover the points for these last two verses. So the last four verses, it's split into two things. This 45 and 46 talk about the importance of 45 talks about the importance of the spiritual master, and then 46, 47, 48 are talking about the omnipotence of the Lord and how the Lord already knows everything. So the main point from 45 is, we have to surrender unto the spiritual master. Without the spiritual master, we won't be able to develop these eyes or hear or our ears into spiritual senses, and we'd never be able to see the Lord or hear the Lord's name purely, and be fully liberated. So we have to take guidance from our spiritual master. And when we do see the Lord under the guidance and mercy of the spiritual master, all our miseries will be vanquished. So in King Chitraketu's case, he was trained by Narada Muni and Angira Rishi. So similarly, we have to surrender unto our spiritual master to be able to develop these senses to see or hear the Lord. And finally, the omnipotence of the Lord is that the Lord already knows everything, and the Lord already, it explains that in your presence there is nothing for me to make known, which is that the Lord knows everything. So even though the Lord knows everything, the Lord is always very, very pleased and merciful that we do devotional service to Him. So that shows how merciful the Lord is, and how great our opportunity is to serve Him. So with that, I will end. Thank you, Vinamataji, Mataji, Satsar Prabhu, for this opportunity. Thank you, devotees, for listening to me ramble. Please forgive me if I said anything incorrectly, and thank you for this opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prashanth Prabhu. That was a very nice presentation, Prabhu. Actually, it's very nice that you covered so many important points from the verses. It's like the key points, and really heart-touching points too. Quickly, I know we don't have time. Just 2 points I would like to share that caught my attention. That true religion is to love God and not to pit against each other. That's a very powerful point. And we have to always remember that we all are part and parcel of Krishna and not fight against each other. I think when you said that, my thought which came to my mind was Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So that was very important. And the other point was there is no benefit to be gained from religion that does not purify us of our anarthas. So I think that's a very important point. If you are not getting purified, then that means there is something wrong in that religion or something wrong in what we are doing. And the other key point, which I thought I would like to reiterate, was our ultimate duty is to follow the instructions from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's so rare to get that opportunity. And we are so fortunate we have that opportunity to read and listen and practice. And we should definitely utilize that. So thank you, Prashanth Prabhu. You really presented the prayers very beautifully. Thank you so much. Thank you, devotees, for joining the BhagavatSanga program. I just would like to remind everyone that tomorrow is disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada, and it's fasting till noon. We have online-only program tomorrow. It starts at 6:30 to 7. By Prabhu will be singing bhajans and doing kirtan. And Satyasara Prabhu will be giving class from 7 to 8 on Srila Prabhupada. So please join online on the same Zoom. With that, thank you all for joining. Hare Krishna.